Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Happy New Year from the Library Love Fest team at HarperCollins Publishers. How are you? We are dandy because we have been away and now we're back. And we are so excited to talk to you about some new books. I'm Virginia.
Hello, I'm Chris.
And I'm Lainey.
And we are the Library Love Fest marketing department. And happy to be here and happy to talk to you about some fun stuff and some fun books and new stuff that we have coming up. Some authors who are going to be coming to the American Library Association conference in Philadelphia. So if you're coming to that, please stop by our booth. But first a toast to the new year, to new year, new books. And but the same old Library Love Fest team come to you monthly on Facebook Live. Happy New Year to you, and to you, and to you.
Cheers.
Cheers. Don't drink these because they've been in the refrigerator for 3 years.
Bready.
Go. So good.
Chris just said bready. Wait, what's the year on that?
Well, it was due to be consumed by August of 2017.
All right.
So it's a classic.
Yes.
Good vintage.
Bready.
We've been letting it breathe for a while.
Anyway, okay, so we're going to have a guest pop into the hut in a couple of minutes. But first we wanted to talk about the podcast and some new features of our podcast. Lainey, podcast queen, take it away.
We have lots of good things that have been coming out. We have a lot of good things that are going to be coming out, including a book that I'm talking about today. And we have some fun things about poetry, which is cool, coming out today. Be sure to check that out. But we have an exciting announcement. We have a voicemail now, so you can call and leave us a message. You just call up, and the number is, we'll write it in the comments, but 212-207-7773. And if you leave us a message, you'll hear my lovely voice saying hello to you. And then you'll leave a message, and then we might play it on the podcast. So, every week we might have something related to the book we're talking about, or we'll ask you a specific question. But by all means, if you just have a thought, you wanted to tell us about a great book that we are putting out, please let us know, and you never know, might go on the podcast. And then today, in honor of the new voicemail, send us a voicemail today. So call in, and it's just a voicemail. You record it, and you're done. You don't have to do anything else. And talk about anything we talk about on the Facebook Live. Tell us what book that we've talked about you love, or what you voted for Library Reads if you want to. And you could win some books we're talking about. So, is that enough to entice you?
Oh, it so is. Come on. We won't necessarily play it unless you want us to, but you could just call that number. What's the number? 212-207
7773.
7773. Call now. You might win a car. Not from us, but you might win a car. But all you have to do is call up and say, I love you, and hang up. And then we'll be like, oh, okay, let's enter them to win all of these books.
Yeah, just tell us who you are, what library you work at, and you could just say nice things about us. I won't send it to them. I'll just listen to it.
It could be rambling. It could be weird.
It could be.
That really make things more interesting, I think. So just be.
I mean, you know us. You know what we like.
Yeah.
It could be anything you want to talk about. It could be a book that you love. It could be, I don't know, maybe something that's come up in your library that you want to talk about. I mean, we can make this whatever we want it to be. So your voice, we want to hear your voice. Whether you have, gripes or fun things to say, or if like, hey, you got to read this book, or I like that book, but I like this book better. Anything. It's an open forum.
And a little teaser: we have one librarian. I'm not going to tell you who, because you're going to have to listen to the podcast. Coming on the podcast in the next couple of weeks, and she's talking all about romance. And she said that you can call in and ask her a question, and she'll answer it. So keep an eye out for that if you're a romance fan.
All right, so how are they going to find out more about that?
That will go up in a couple of weeks. Listen to the podcast. You'll know when you see it, because we're talking to a librarian. And at the end, I tell you the number again, and you can call and leave us a message. It'll be on our blog, too.
And that's an interesting thing, because we know that a lot of librarians have lots of challenges with collections and how to form their collections, and romance being one of the hottest topics, subjects, genres. There's a lot to talk about there. So much subtext there. So that's going to be a really cool interview that Lainey does. And so it would be really helpful for your fellow librarians to hear what you have to say on the subject and the types of books that you acquire to satisfy patrons' needs, wants, desires in the field of romance. So that's going to be really cool. So just go to Library Love Fest to find out more about that. Is that the best way?
Yeah, and every episode we put more information on our blog. So it's just, we want two-way communication. This is not a one-way thing. We want to hear from you, and we want to hear what is bothering you or what questions you have. So please let us know.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to ask Christopher Columbus to sail the ocean blue in 1492. And
What's
then
the distant horizon?
Bon voyage.
So long, sailor. He'll be back. And enter, and I'm going to step out so that Miriam can sit in the middle. Come, Miriam. Okay. Introducing.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Miriam Parker, Associate Publisher of Ecco, an imprint of HarperCollins. I'm sure you're well aware of that fabulous imprint, from which comes unbelievable books, beautiful, thoughtful, intelligent, and books that stay with you forever. So,
what a lovely thing to say.
it's
about Ecco.
entirely
Thank
true.
You.
It's entirely
I'm
true.
honored to be here. I'm a big fan. First time caller, long time listener. I'm going to call the voicemail.
Please.
I might have things to tell you. I don't know.
Love that.
Tell us.
Well, I want to tell you about a couple of books that we have coming up from Ecco this spring and winter. But the first one I want to tell you about is one that is very close to my heart. It's called Separation Anxiety. It's by Laura Zigman. This is Laura's first book in over 15 years. And it is a book that when I first heard about it, I plotzed, let's just say. It's a book about a woman who is getting older. Her son is growing up. Her husband is sleeping in a different room and smoking some weed and just, like her life is kind of falling apart and she doesn't know what to do. And one day she's down in her basement, like going through a bunch of stuff, and she finds an old baby sling. And she takes out the baby sling and she looks at her sling and she looks at her dog and she says, I'm going to start wearing my dog in this sling. If you want to just look at the cover, it depicts it well. And this sort of sets off a whole series of events for her that lead to both hilarious revelations. They lead to, I think, poignant revelations. It's a book that's going to make you laugh. It's going to make you cry. And I want to just read one thing that we have on the back of our galley that Laura wrote for us, because I think it's really funny and I think it's really poignant. She says, I've always written what I call semi-autobiographical fiction. Stories based on the sometimes painful, always hilarious stages of life that I and everyone I knew was going through. Separation Anxiety is about a woman who starts wearing the family dog as a way to keep herself from coming apart at the seams as she deals with loss and marriage and a really annoying Montessori school. It is where I and everyone I know has been lately, give or take the dog sling or the Montessori school. And we've found that actually a lot of people have been wearing their dogs in slings lately. So
Is that right? Yeah.
it's true.
She said, we met Laura, luckily,
Yeah.
and she said that they sell them at PetSmart now.
Oh, totally. I mean, celebrities are doing it. Priyanka Chopra wears her dog in a dog sling. So, I mean, anyone can do it. And I mean, I have a dog. I don't have a sling, but I do have a tote bag. And I will say that carrying my dog in a tote bag is very satisfying. And so, Virginia, you read this book too.
Love this book. Now, you guys probably, people who are watching, have heard me go on about this book for ever since the manuscript came out.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love the voice in this book. And it's everything that Miriam has said, because what I love about this character is that she's I don't like to say warts and all. I like to say that she is just showing herself as a very fallible person.
Yeah.
When you say, I mean, she's just sort of like, she's not pretending to be anything. If anything, she's just being totally honest with how life has sort of unraveled for her and how she's trying to pick up the pieces and make the best of things, because nothing's really going her way. Her short-lived history as a children in writing children's books, and like things just haven't been going her way, and she accepts it and owns it and isn't crazy about it, but she marches on. And I just feel like this dog fills this void for her until things sort of sort themselves a bit. And I just absolutely love this book so much. And I was so sad not to meet her. I was so, because she spoke at Library Journals with Dave Dialogue
in
up
Boston,
in
or Cambridge, sorry.
Yeah, and Chris and Lainey got to go, and I was so disappointed to not meet her, because I can't wait to meet her, because I just absolutely love that book. Kind of the way I felt about Kevin Wilson and Nothing to See Here. Like, I fell in love with that book. And he had written other books with us, and then I couldn't wait to meet him. When I met him, it was like, oh my God, it's like the best feeling when you meet somebody who's written a book that's touched your heart, and then they end up being just so lovely, and it's just, I don't know, it's just a big old, it's a big old love fest. But anyway, and that book fell under Miriam as well. We've done such wonderful things with that. But this book is just heaven, and I hope everybody that's read it, that we've given it to, has said, this book is so great. Equal parts funny, equal parts, tender, and very, very real.
Yeah. I mean, crazy things happen in this book. I mean, she invites these people that she calls the puppet people that come and stay at her house. They're people who perform with puppets, and they end up living in her house, and it creates extra chaos. She goes on this retreat that's with an Instagram influencer, and she realizes that Instagram influencers are like not quite what they seem behind the scenes. And everything that happens in the book could happen in real life, may have happened in real life, but it's just, it's funny. And I think that Kevin is a really good comparison, because I think Kevin also does an amazing thing where he sort of takes little emotions from real life and puts them into fiction in a really moving way. It also moves from the funny to the poignant, which I think this book does too.
Yeah.
Can I also tell them about our little swag that we made?
Yeah.
So, because I'm a dog lover and I love to make swag, so we decided that we would make a little dog bandana. It fits on people too, but it's really for dogs. And you can, if you have a big dog, it's kind of this big, and if you have a little dog, you can go like this, and it'll go right around their neck. My dog's around 12 pounds, and it looks very good on him. I can send you a photo later.
Yes.
So we have lots of these. So if folks who call into the voicemail number, if you leave where your library is and you would like a dog bandana for your library dog or home dog, we will send you one.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
that is that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that is so cute. It's the cover of the book. I love. You're so smart.
Well,
we want to make sure to say Library Reads votes are due really soon, so make sure to get them in by February 1st. So there's a lot of time to download it and read, and
Yeah, please check it out. You will be so happy, I guarantee you.
And it's a fast read too, so
it is.
you can fit it in.
Okay.
All right.
So.
And then I just wanted to mention this book. When Virginia asked me to come on the Library Love Fest show, I was like, I have to bring this book. It comes out in February, so it's past the Library Reads deadline for this, but this is a memoir called In the Land of Men, and I just wanted, this cover just screams library to me, and I just wanted everyone to see it. And it's also a book about writing and publishing. It's a book by Adrienne Miller, who was the first female fiction editor of Esquire magazine back in the 1990s, and she sort of stepped into this man's world and sort of tried to change it, and I think and really both find amazing literary writers and also move the magazine in a better direction. This magazine that had been obviously very male focused, and in the process she met David Foster Wallace, who became one of her main writers for the magazine, and also who she dated briefly. And so the book is about her and her role and her journey from being a young editorial assistant in New York City up to one of the most influential editors in New York City, but also her relationship with one of the most storied people in all of in the history of of writing. So and it shows him in a really intimate way from the inside. And so it's a book that if you love books and reading and you love writers and you're interested in who they are and how their minds work, I just think it's a really It's a really fun one to read. And it's also weirdly funny. It's she has these great asides. Her parentheticals are better than any parenthetical I've ever read, which is a weird thing to say. But as you're reading this book, which is, it's a serious, it's her life, and, things happen to her that are serious. I mean, obviously David Foster Wallace was a tragic character in many ways. But the book is, there's some funny moments to it that I think are worth reading. And also there's some very good descriptions of New York publishing parties. So if you love to just read a dishy, publishing party story, there's a great one here about the Infinite Jest publication party. So, which I did not attend, but can only imagine what it was like. And I've learned a lot from reading this book about it. So I think it's a fun one.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's a great jacket, too.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, if you love books, how could you not want that book on your shelf?
I know. Maybe you should make a bandana out of that as well. Make a bandana out of all of
Why
the
not?
jackets.
It's our new. It's the new move. New marketing move.
Yeah. Now, do you have another?
I have one more.
What's the matter, Lady? Did you want to say something?
No.
Oh, I thought you were going to ask her.
I
Okay.
mean, I always want to say
So
something.
this is, I believe, the longest book I've ever published at Ecco.
God.
And actually, I just heard that it's going to be longer. So we're adding 16 pages to this book. So, so this is just the galley. This book is called Warhol. It's a definitive biography of who could it be about?
Bill Buckley?
Yeah. Andy Warhol. And it's an exhaustive book. Blake Gopnik has been working on this book for over 7 years. He has talked to everyone from Andy Warhol's, I just want to make sure I get this right.
Quite heavy, I can help you with that.
From Andy Warhol's childhood friend to his first boyfriend, his first assistant, and even the surgeon who saved his life in 1968. And has found out so many things that no one could ever find out. One of the things that his childhood friend told him was that they were so poor when they were young that Campbell's soup was this luxury item, which I think is a really interesting fact that it comes back in Andy's art so much later. But it was something that, as kids, they were like, oh, those fancy kids eating the Campbell's soup. So I think, it has little details like that. And, at the beginning, Andy Warhol was, he decorated windows for department stores. And he would, draw little sketches and put them up in the store. And that was actually his first inspiration for how his art started to develop. So you learn these kind of things. I love the parts of a biography where you learn about the person before they became famous and how their ideas generated and how the things that we see as iconic really did kind of grow up into this person that you think you look at the soup cans now and you're like, oh yeah, he made soup cans, but this is where it came from. It started from this childhood thing, then it went to set dressing, then it went to him sort of getting the idea and growing. So I think it's really interesting. I was just looking through the book again before I came down here, and on every page there's at the beginning he meets Norman Rockwell, then he meets Elvis, then he meets Marilyn Monroe, John Lennon, Bianca Jagger. It's the whole history of pop culture is in this book. So it's it's a book about Andy Warhol, but it's a book about America, and it's a book about the second half of the 20th century and art and culture. And I think it's a book that it's a long one, but it's worth reading. Our finished book is going to have an amazing insert, and it's also going to have a photograph at the beginning of every chapter, and I believe there are over 50 chapters. Wow. So there's going to be a lot of just of art and information about Andy Warhol's life that's both visual and also obviously...
Is it in here now? Or
not yet. So in the galley, we just have the text, but the finished book will have amazing visuals. So I think it's a great thing to have in your library. I think people will really value both what they can learn from the book, but also the finished product, which is going to look really, really, really good.
A piece of art.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
That's
I
what
have
to do.
a shoe print by Andy Warhol in my room.
Oh.
It says "Shoe light, shoe bright, first shoe I see tonight," and
I love it.
It's so cool because he used to design shoes, and so
it's
it's
cool.
just what I would have never thought that, but
No.
yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, I was once at a party in a very fancy person's house, and I was holding a drink, and I was going to put it down on an end table that I saw, and then I looked down, and the end table was a lucite box that had a Brillo box inside of it, and I was like, maybe I shouldn't put my drink on an Andy Warhol. That might be a bad idea. So I held my drink. It was fine. I drank it.
That's so great. That's so great.
But I think this book is it's definitive. No one's written a book like this before. Blake Gopnik had access to all of the archives. He's done so much research. He's read everything there is to know. And I think I think it's going to be something that both you want to read, but also that you want to keep, and also that you might want to give to someone who is a fan of art and contemporary art.
They'll learn a lot.
They will.
Yeah,
It's true.
Yeah. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's a
photo.
piece of work for sure.
Indeed.
Yeah. Well, and what's the pub date?
That is coming out in April.
Okay,
of 2020.
so time to
So you
vote
have
for
plenty
that
of
as well.
time. Plenty of time to dip in.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you for
this
having
was
me.
so great for you to come to our Tiki Hut.
I appreciate it. I would love to come back.
You can
you
come
for
back to our
having me.
Tiki Hut anytime you want to.
Yes. Oh.
And thank you again for all of the great books that Ecco publishers. Do we want to talk briefly about the poetry?
Can.
We could.
It goes up today, so it's a
Yes.
little sneak peek now. But you did a great intro. If you want to, you're going to hear it in the podcast, but maybe if you want to talk about it first.
Well,
Yeah.
Dan Halpern is the president, publisher, founder of Ecco, and we do a launch. The editors launch their books for every season, about a half a year in advance, and so everybody gathers together and we listen and we hear all about what we're doing with you. That's what we hear about from the editors, and so Dan Halpern it was Ecco's turn to go by imprint, and so it was Dan Halpern, president, publisher, founder of Ecco, started off because they were talking about some books of poetry that they publish and are going to publish, and so he started off with a piece that he had written, and then he read it to this room where you could hear a pin drop as he read these beautiful words that he had crafted to talk about why we read poetry, why poetry is important, and why it has been and will always be relevant. What is it about poetry? And now Dan Halpern is an institution in the world of publishing and beyond. And so to hear him read this piece was chilling. I'm telling you, it was chilling. And I was sitting there thinking how lucky we all were to be in that room and to listen to this man read this beautiful piece, this heartfelt, beautiful piece. And so everybody stopped. You couldn't hear a thing, nothing. And then later on, I had written to Dan right away and said that was just absolutely beautiful. I was so grateful, and we're so lucky to have you and to have had that experience. And then Lainey, right after that, came to me and she said, I had chills and tears in my eyes listening to him. Like, I'm so glad to hear you say that. Chris, the same thing. I mean, we were all just so touched by it. And so it was recorded. And so Lainey.
What's so cool, I was listening to it today to edit it, and it still made me tear up. Like, I've heard it multiple times, but it was so beautiful, and we were lucky enough that it was recorded when you guys presented for other people, but we took that, and we could have asked him to redo it where it was quieter, but you have to hear the room, because at the beginning, like, papers are rustling, and then it just slowly goes into silence, and you hear people go, oh my God, in the middle, and it, I think, has such a big impact hearing all of the reactions in the room and the claps at the end, and so I'm really excited. It's very short. It's going to be like a less than 10-minute episode, but you have to listen to it. It's so amazing.
Great, I heard it in
I'll
person,
send
but
it
I
to
can't
you
wait
guys,
to hear
yeah.
it. And, Ecco, we do publish a lot of poetry. Dan is also a poet himself, and we have some really, really exciting poetry coming up in the next year that we'll talk about in a couple months.
When we can.
Yes.
Yes. So
thank you so much.
thank
Thanks
you,
for
Miriam.
having me.
Thank you so much. And so now we'll release you from the Tiki Hut.
Thank you. Well, I'm honored to be here.
Thank you very much. Come back anytime. Alrighty, and Christopher Columbus, come back from sailing the ocean blue, won't she? I don't even know what I'm talking about. Hey, how
Love
cool
seat
is that?
back there,
Oh my
so
God.
Comfortable.
Oh, the love seat, really?
Oh yeah, it's
Like
great.
they're smoking a lucky. Oh my God, how great is Miriam? Miriam
So
Parker. She just.
It's a great team. The Ecco team is just incredible.
they're
on every
fantastic.
level. So.
If you guys like this, we can do more of this where we bring editors in and tell you from their heart what they are loving. I mean, we love to listen to that. I mean, let's face it, they're putting a lot on the line. They're paying for these books, these projects they're acquiring, and they're saying, we can make this work. So I just love to hear that extra layer of enthusiasm, and I find it infectious. So we might, do more of that because I just think it's super fun. Okay, so now, how are we on time? 2:30. Okay, so now we'll talk about some books that we're excited about. Who wants to go first? Love Story. I pulled this off the shelf because it's the 50th anniversary of Love Story. Do you believe this? So I don't know. Do you remember? Of course you do. So it's coming out in February next month. 50th anniversary. Eric Siegel, Love Story. Ryan O'Neal. Oh my God, Ally McGraw. Do you remember? Love means never having to say you're sorry. Kills me. God, I love that movie. These guys don't know what I'm talking about. But let me tell you something. You guys should go home and watch that movie. It's the best. And then Oliver's Story was the follow-up. So anyway, I just needed to let you know that we're doing these, and it's so cool. Look at that. Look at that. Ah, so bad. I had this poster in my room when I was a kid.
Aww.
Anyway,
That's so sweet.
Where do I begin? Okay. Who's next? Let's go into the future.
Into the future? Can I talk about a book that I've not talked about at all? Just kidding. I think you probably are all tired of hearing me talk about this book, but I just have to talk about it a little bit more because Valentine by Elizabeth Wetmore. Elizabeth's going to be at ALA, so I wanted to let you know so that you can put it in your calendar so you can come and see her, because this is a book that
You're so funny.
that you will not forget. It will stay with you. I've read it twice so far, and I can't wait to read it a third time, which I think says a lot with all of the books that are piling up on my nightstand. But this one, it's pretty, it's not too long, easy to go through, and it's about women in a town of Odessa, Texas in the 70s, and one girl who's 15 is brutally attacked in an oil field. She's a first-generation immigrant. Her mom is from Mexico, and she goes off with this man on Valentine's Day, and it's, you get into a situation, she gets out with her life, thankfully, and what the rest of the book, it was what ensues after, so up until the trial and after, and all of the women in town's different views of this attack, and getting to know Glory, the girl, and kind of understanding their own privileges in a way, and there's like this extra element of racism in there and being in the 70s, and it's the most beautiful book. I think about it all the time, and I tell everyone, I just scream it from the rooftops. We have a great podcast episode where her editor and I interview Elizabeth. I was lucky enough to meet her when she came in the office, and she's just like the coolest person. I like you were saying, it's cool and the book's great, but when you meet someone and they live up to that, like she's just so cool, and she has a way with words, and she's a teacher, so she teaches characterizations and writing characters, and it shows through, like, characters are here. It reminds me a little of Flannery O'Connor when I was reading it. It's got that gritty, like, southern, but, like, raw. Like, these characters, and she doesn't, she's spare words, but you know them, and please come see her. She's also speaking on the Library Reads panel, debut panel. I don't have it in front of me.
I do.
Okay.
All our schedule is on Library Love Fest. It's pinned to the top, librarylovefest.com. We'll also put a link.
This is for the American Library Association's Midwinter Conference in Philadelphia.
Yes.
So, if you're coming,
come see Elizabeth Wetmore.
Saturday, January 25th from 1 to 2 p.m.
That's
Eastern
at our booth.
That's our booth
1148 is our booth number.
Yes, and then later that day from 3 to 4:30 she'll be on the Library Reads panel.
Is that in the convention center?
That's in the convention center.
Perfect.
126-B.
And you know what? We'll have handouts at the booth. You can go to Library Love Fest right now, like Chris said, and print it out. All that information is right there. So, because you have to hear her. You have to hear her. You got to read this book. This book's amazing. We both said, like, kind of like Flannery O'Connor. We said
Yeah,
it
separately, and then
independent
came
of each
together.
other. It was very weird. She's so amazing, and Lainey has done this amazing job. She's just like enveloped this book. So
It is like I mean, it's hard because it's such a hard topic. I don't want to make light of that or like make you think that that's not a big part of it. It is, and it's rough, but it feels like you're just wrapping yourself in like a warm blanket, and you're just like getting into these people's lives, and you feel it. You know their pain. I don't know.
Who's the young girl? What's the name of the young
D.A.
girl?
Pierce.
Oh my god.
Oh, and there's like this rambunctious,
characters.
precocious is a good way to.
Precocious with a capital.
Yeah,
P.
she like wants to help people, but usually it's the opposite.
She's always in the
But her
way.
mom has run away, and so people in town are taking her under her wing, and
Yeah.
but it's only in the women's perspective, so you don't hear from any men. You hear about a man that kind of has less privilege too, but you don't hear in his voice, which I think is really interesting. There's no quotation marks, which is really interesting. I think it's just one of those like favorite books that you always go back to, and I think, yeah, people are going to know about it. It's important.
Yeah, it is important. And I was just going to say, because if you have a galley and you've read it and you love it and you look at the spine and it says April 2020, that is no longer the case.
We couldn't wait.
We couldn't. Yes, that's absolutely right.
Good
so
point,
now
Chris.
it's going
Thank
on
you.
sale in March, which, and I'd be curious to hear how you librarians organize your reading based on library read schedules. Obviously, we're always locked in because it's a great program and we just love getting that direct feedback as far as, what you're reading. But just make a note that votes now are due by February 1st for Valentine, because it's such a wonderful book, and it's a book we think just needs to be heard about more, and the library reads list is a great way for that. So that was a long-winded way of saying vote by February 1st for library reads.
And call in and leave a voicemail and tell us how you read and vote,
Yeah.
so we know.
It's funny because you were talking, Lainey brought this up, that a lot of librarians, when we send you guys galleys, that sometimes you find it helpful to have the library reads voting deadline date on the spine of the book. I'd love to know what you say about that. Are you like, what are you talking about? Which is what I thought, until Lainey showed me a picture that somebody had, I don't know, it was a stack of galleys, and the librarian likes the deadline dates because she stacks them up this way, and then she goes, oh, I got to read this one first in order for it to, make it to library reads, and I have a little bit more time, so this guy goes on the bottom. Anyway, just a thought. But to Chris's point and to Lainey's point, you don't want to miss, you want to give this book every chance. We want to give this book every chance it can get, and getting it on the library reads list would be a phenomenal thing. And so we don't want to miss that deadline because of this, because it got changed. So very good point, and very, very moving, very powerful book. And I think it's funny how we all related to different characters in the book. It's because it's all character centric, and so it's very interesting, the voices that spoke to each of us.
Yeah.
It's so great.
The fact that we can talk about them like they are real to it. Like certain books you talk about them with some distance, whereas these characters, it is really, when you're talking about them, it's like a good friend or a family member, someone that matters to you, because they all are just so vibrant. And
I can't wait to read it again. And I mean, honestly, we have so many books to read. I don't say that a lot.
Yeah, I know.
And so this would be the third time.
Yeah.
And so I think it's gonna transcend, and it's gonna keep going. And I think it'll be perfect for like classes. People are gonna be talking, and it's got so much to talk about. So anyway, I'm gonna stop talking about it now.
I'm going to quickly mention, because some of these books we have spoken about before, and I'm pretty sure that we've spoken about Kid Quixote's. This is a book by Stephen Haff, and this is coming out. Yeah, thank you. April. So this is about undocumented children, and the teacher who starts this after-school program in Brooklyn to teach these kids lessons based on very sort of unconventional techniques from AA meetings, from Quaker meetings, psychotherapy, Buddhist meditation circles. The school is called Still Waters in a Storm, and it is this it's this amazing little place in Brooklyn. And there's a documentary. You can Google this, and you can see great footage of the teacher and of the kids and what he has done to transform their lives. There are pages of quotes on this book, and this author is coming to ALA. I want to read this latest quote to you from Jonathan Safran Foer, who says, "The one rule at Still Waters in a Storm," again, that is the school in which this has been founded and based on this book. "The one rule at Still Waters in a Storm, the beautiful school at the heart of this beautiful book, is everyone listens to everyone. I listened to the many voices telling this necessary story, and I was moved and changed by them." As I say, I have got pages of quotes, raves about this book, raves about the author and the children and the school and the way it presents itself and the way that they are affecting lives. So I know that we're short on time. We have a ton of books to talk about. He is going to be at ALA. Chris, when?
Oh, let's see.
Again, you can go to Library Love Fest and you'll see the whole schedule. He'll be signing in the booth, signing these galleys. Did you want to say something, Lainey?
Go watch him interact with the kids online, because I think he came to the office, they all did, and did a little show, part of their show, because they tour. That stuck with me because of the things he let the kids say, and kids that don't have a voice and don't get to speak their mind had a voice, and he cared so much. It was really sweet.
If you go to Edelweiss, there's the video. I think you can find the video there, as well as if you just Google it. There's a lot of backup material on the Edelweiss page. There is, so you can read a lot about the backstory, about the author and the school, and see the video, and it'll put a lump in your throat.
All right. He's signing Sunday, January 26th at the HarperCollins booth, 1148, from 11 to 12.
Come meet him on Sunday.
Yes.
Check out the schedule on Library Love Fest. It's really so beautiful. A group of students, their teacher, and the one-room school where everything is possible. Okay, what are we doing next?
I might go on a tangent and just talk about a book that we'll be presenting it at our main buzz at ALA. So if you haven't RSVP'd and you're going, make sure to RSVP for our book buzz.
So we know if there are enough donuts.
Gotta have enough donuts.
Which one is the rancid beer? I'm gonna go with this one. That's fine.
Yes. Okay, that's the right one. But I'm gonna talk about Empire of Wild by Sheree Demoline.
I'll hold it.
Yes, sure. So this is going to be Sheree's first adult novel published in the U.S. and we're really excited about it. I think with Indigenous voices that there's of course a big demand for novels and nonfiction from Indigenous voices, and Sheree brings that to us. So this is based on this Métis legend about basically this werewolf type creature that wanders in the woods. This is set kind of like north, more in Canada, but like right between Canada and like North Dakota. And there's this legend where this beast kind of wanders and snatches, anyone who's out in the dark. And the story starts with this Indigenous legend framed, and then you go to this contemporary story of this woman and her husband. They're like passionately in love. They live on a reservation, but the husband up and disappears, and no one knows what happens to him. A year goes by. This woman, Joan, is just completely, traumatized and broken. She's drinking a lot. But a year goes by, and she's kind of stumbling around in this old kind of shopping center parking lot, and there's this tent up, and it's obviously like this kind of like a preacher. It's this gathering, this religious gathering, and she wanders in. And there's this very like passionate orator, the leader of this congregation, and she sees a guy who looks exactly like her husband. He has a different haircut. He doesn't recognize her. He speaks differently, and he claims to have been part of this congregation for however long. And she's convinced this is her husband who's been missing all this time. And then it's just this this crazy chase, this trying to get down to the truth, what's real, what isn't, as you get down to the bottom of this community. Kind of like Valentine, actually. I know this sounds like a very different book, but it is about the characters and the community that surround Joan. It's a very tight-knit community. As they kind of get, they wade through this insanity. Like, how is this possible? And is this actually her long-lost husband? I love this book. And the reason I bring it up is some of the quotes, the blurbs we're getting are crazy. So Margaret Atwood, the Margaret Atwood quoted this. Deftly written, gripping, and informative. Empire of Wild is a rip-roaring read. And then Tommy Orange, There, which is a New York Times bestseller. That book blew up, again, because people are looking for these kind of stories. And he said, Empire of Wild is doing everything I love in a contemporary novel and more. It is tough, funny, beautiful, honest, and propulsive, all the while telling a story that needs to be told by a person who needs to be telling it. I think that says it all. It has that a little hint of a fantastical element, but it is still very grounded and kind of gritty, but very heartfelt at the same time. I love it. I love the jacket too.
Yeah, the jacket's great.
So that's coming July 28th. So if you're coming to our Buzz, I'll be talking about this more because it's just a wonderful, unique story, and I think you'll be hearing a lot more about it
Beauty.
in the months ahead.
In the months ahead. Laney Manny, who goes?
Doesn't matter. You want me to?
Yeah, sure.
So a book that, not coming to ALA, but a book we wanted to talk about, Fast Girls by Elise Hooper.
Oh, we love Elise.
I
Love
know.
Elise.
We love Elise. We were fortunate enough to meet her over the years at a couple of conferences. And little spoiler alert, she's going to be on the podcast. Her and her editor had a conversation, and she does historical fiction so well. She researches everything so much, and we have great supplemental content to go along with her discussion of Fast Girls. So can't wait for that to be out. It'll be out in a couple of weeks. But Elise is just lovely in general. But you might know her from the other Alcott or Learning to See. She, like I said, does all she does is historical fiction. She does it so well. And Fast Girls, it's all about women that were competing in the Olympics during 1936 in Berlin, which is the height of, Nazi regime. So in itself was kind of an interesting Olympic season because you had just pageantry to show how great they were. It wasn't really about the Olympics. But you have three women. You have Chicago's Betty Robinson, who actually was in the 1928 Olympics. She goes home from that, and she was in a nearly fatal airplane crash, but then she's going to try to get back out there and go compete in track and field. And then you have Louise Stokes, who was from Boston, and she was the first black woman to compete in the Olympics. And in Missouri, you have Helen Stevens, who is trying to escape this farm life. And so Betty and Helen were the first women to win Olympic gold medals for the United States. And like I said, Louise was the first black woman. So you have this really rich history and stories of women that are not told, people I don't know about and I want to know more about. But then you have like these really crazy women doing crazy, amazing things. But then along with like this Nazi regime and like what that was like to compete. And one of the photos that Elise had was one of the girls with Hitler because he was having parties and stuff. And it's just so mind-blowing to see that they just went to the Olympics and competed in Berlin as the world was kind of crashing around them or about to crash. And so, Elise went to go do all the research. She's held these women's journals and shoes that they ran in, and it's so cool, and I can't wait to share that with you. I have pictures. It's got a great PS section, too, with different discussion questions. There's Elise. And different photos from, there it is. There you go. Hitler and Helen Stevens. I don't know if you can see it from here, but the galley has it if you want a galley. But really cool story, and I also love stories of women and women stories that never get told. So excited about this one.
She's so smart. She's a great writer, such a great researcher, and a lovely person to boot. She came to the Texas Library Association, and she came
to Midwinter.
Midwinter. Yeah.
She's based in Seattle, so if you are in Seattle and want her to come to the library, let us know.
Fantastic speaker, so just great.
Well, she's a teacher, right? So and she does have that.
You can tell she can speak so well.
Let us know if you're interested in any of these authors, and if we can get them to you, we will do our darndest. Do you want to say something about anybody who's writing things to us?
Yeah, just looking at old friends and new. Kimberly McGee, hello. We love Kimberly McGee. And she said Valentine is awesome and everyone should see her at ALA.
Thank you.
She also said, now I feel old, 50 years, Allie and her turtleneck sweaters.
To your... and remember how she... never mind.
Vicky nesting in breeze.
Yes, I'm sorry, I just noticed that Chris's beer is foaming outside the bottle. Thank God you didn't drink that.
It's become sentient, I think.
It's bready, as he said.
It's bready. There it is.
Love means never having to say you're sorry. God, the best. So great. Sorry. Should I go? Or are there any questions?
No questions, just love.
Okay. We have a book, so we don't have a lot of time left, but we have a book coming out. It's going on sale in May. And it's called. We do have a jacket for this one.
Yes.
Oh, thank you,
somewhere in
Lainey.
there.
You're the best. Somewhere in this mess of papers is that's just me. Lainey, you're the best. Thank you very much. The Boy Who Followed His Father into Auschwitz, a true story of family and survival by Jeremy Dronfield. This is a trade paperback original library hardcover, I think. I'm not sure. I'll double check that.
Don't get me lying.
All right. Sorry, I should know that, but I don't. This was originally published was a #1 Sunday Times. In the UK, they sold 50,000 copies there alone. Oh, it is a library hardcover. Thank you, Lainey. Yeah. And it's the true story of a 16-year-old boy who follows his father to Auschwitz. So his father they are both in. The father is a Jewish upholsterer from Vienna. It's 1939. Gustav is the father, and his 16-year-old son Fritz are arrested by the Gestapo and sent to Germany, and they're imprisoned at Buchenwald concentration camp. They survive that, and then the father is being sent to Auschwitz, and the son says, "I'm going with you," and so this is the story of what happens to them, and the father has taken notes. And this author is a historian and researcher and has compiled all this information and written this incredibly powerful story that is based on the secret diary that the father kept. So there's archival research and interviews with members of the family, and including Fritz, the son's younger brother, Kurt, who was sent to the United States at age 11 to escape the war. So this is their story. It is it's brutal, and it's important, and we're proud to be publishing it. This is going on sale, as I say, it's going on sale. Did I say April or May? May. And big announced print, library hardcover. There'll be a PS section with interviews, photographs, background material, and as I say, it's a powerful book. Lots of buzz here at Harper about this book. On sale May 12th, 2020, The Boy Who Followed His Father into Auschwitz, a true story of family and survival by Jeremy Dronfield. Okay.
I'll talk about two co-authors who are coming to ALA, and we're absolutely thrilled. This is The Book of Rosie by Rosario Pablo Cruz and Julie Schweitert-Collazo. I will never forget the editor presenting this book to us. Virginia talked about launch, and hearing our editors, our incredible editors, talk about the process of being introduced to a book or a manuscript, deciding to buy it, and the reasoning for it and the story for the book itself. This is a book, so Rosie, The Book of Rosie, she was separated from her children. She was living in Guatemala, and basically she was, living a normal life, but due to crime and war and poverty, she couldn't live there anymore. And she had this horrible decision to make to give up her life and make this journey to America. And when she did, she was basically immediately separated from her children at the border. And this book is about her journey north to America, her separation, and then Julie, who founded Immigrant Families Together, which is an organization that helps reunite families and kids and the parents who are separated at the border. So Julie teamed up with Rosie to again reunite, and then it's also the story of Rosie building a new life. So it's encompassing a lot. But the editor talking about this book and just the experience, when we talk about, caravans or people breaking the law or whatever you want to call it, these aren't decisions taken lightly. They weren't taken lightly by Rosie or anyone else. It's a perilous journey. And then just the bravery involved and everything that went in. And every immigrant story, has, there's a story before that. There's a story before they become an immigrant. It's the life that they had and gave up. And so I think that's a really powerful message in this book. But every single page, and again, the editor, when she was presenting it, people were getting teary-eyed just listening to it. She had trouble getting through it, and it really affected me. And the book, it's beautiful, it's hard, and it's absolutely necessary. I think news cycles come and go. Some things you see a lot, but I think this is something that cannot be ignored. The people's story, not the numbers, not the figures, but what exactly is happening on the ground, what we can do to help, and just everything in between. It's so impactful. We'll be publishing a Spanish language edition as well. This is going on sale June 2nd, and again, both Rosie and Julie will be at ALA signing, and I'm so excited to meet them. I'm kind of
That was really great, Chris.
Well,
It was
thank
great.
you.
That was like really heartfelt and really
Wow.
nice.
It's still there, beating every now and then.
Aw.
So yeah, it's
That presentation by the editor,
yeah,
right?
yeah. It is, and now
Yeah, there were a lot.
That's okay. We just go to librarylovefest.com and you'll find
They're on Saturday right after our buzz.
yeah.
Oh, that's right, 10:30.
10:30.
10:30 Saturday morning. We're going to do our presentation, so come if you can. RSVP, so we get the donuts. And then go to the HarperCollins booth, and they'll be there. Apparently with people with them. I don't know. It's going to
Bringing
be
a
fun.
family.
Yeah, it's going to be
So-
fun. It's going to be really cool.
Yeah.
That's an important book. We have such important books.
Yeah.
So now, how are we on time?
10 minutes. Or
10
so.
minutes. So, a couple books I think we should talk about very quickly, only because Library Reads, the clock is ticking on Library Reads, and we don't want you to miss these books. You okay? You can
I'm
use
good.
your dog.
I was. I think Miriam has more. So.
I hope so. Don't give it back to her.
No, I probably won't.
Okay.
Kerchief.
Do we want it?
Her kerchief. What?
Catherine House, do we want to say something since she'll be at ALA?
Okay. Yeah. No,
Or
that's
if
good.
we should do, I mean,
No,
either
that's
one,
fine.
but-
We'll do this one and this one super quick. And you want to talk about Catherine House real quick?
Yeah,
Or
it's over there.
what do you guys want to?
Oh, do we have it? Oh, we do have a gallery. Yes. Here you go.
Okay. We
Alright.
said we would tag team this
Yes.
one.
Yep.
And there's a great, we won't go into much detail because there's a
Yeah.
great podcast episode with her and her editor, Jessica Williams, who also has a great podcast episode with Kate Elizabeth Russell.
You didn't
More to
know
come in a
Jessica
second.
buys some pretty
Jessica's
good books.
great.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah.
And she comes on the podcast, and she's a pro, and she has such thoughtful questions. So I won't go too much into it. Go listen to that. There's a lot of great info there. But this is a debut. Elizabeth Thomas. She works at the MoMA, which is really cool. She does their it's kind of connected
She's
to
an
the library
archivist,
department there. And yeah, she's an archivist.
Yeah.
And this is her debut novel, and it's about a girl who goes to this elite school, this college, university, but you have to live there for 3 years. You can't go home. You leave everything in the past. Summers, you stay there. You have no contact with your family, and she starts to kind of realize, it's very gothic, and I love, Elizabeth said, I wanted to write a novel about a girl who falls in love with a house. I love that so much, but she was inspired by, Jane Eyre and all of the gothic, but where the house is a character. And this one's it's so elite and people want to get into it, but it's crumbling inside and such great descriptions. But she soon realizes that there might be something else going on in this school, maybe a little mind control, you don't know, and she's got to figure it out. And yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
You want to say anything?
Youthful passion and youthful confusion. I think those are two concepts that, particularly I think with books that Jessica buys, that's a running thing. And any book she buys, it's going to be unique in some way, of course. But I think that's really what jumps from it is that passion for an idea, but it's a thing as well. And I only thought about that because there's this great quote from Robin Wasserman. I don't know if any of you read Girls on Fire. That was one of the first books I read when I started here, and it's about satanic cult paranoia in the 80s, but through the eyes of a girl who gets sent to a Reformation camp. It's crazy, but it's again about that fiery, youthful passion. And she said, with this astonishing debut, Elizabeth Thomas has conjured an immersive, intoxicating world that left me as reluctant as its characters were to leave it behind. I inhaled the novel in a single glorious weekend, but Catherine House and its denizens will linger with me for a very long time.
And that's just breaking the surface. Please go listen to the podcast episode. She goes so in depth, and it's so interesting. Her life is interesting.
And it was her grandfather who attended.
He was
Yale.
one of 4 black men at Yale, and so there's a picture on our blog there of him and his, I think Glee Club or something. Yeah.
That's a very striking photograph.
Yeah.
And so she's a 3rd generation Yale, whatever,
Graduate.
graduate.
Yeah.
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 So
That's cool.
It's a cool interview. Go check it out.
If you come in ALA, come meet her. She's cool.
Yes, and she'll be signing. She's at the T. That's the
United
last
for Libraries
day.
T, yep.
Monday.
On Sunday.
Oh, Sunday.
Yeah,
sorry.
they change it from Monday to
right.
Sunday. Okay, so then speaking of Jessica Williams, did you want to give the time? Well,
Oh,
it's okay. Just go to
it's
no,
on
it's
our
on
side.
that.
Yeah.
So we're out of time, but in the Jessica Williams, editor at William Morrow, who does amazing books, and that was a great way to wrap up the kind of books that she does. Do it, girl.
Oh God.
I know. You've heard us talk about it, but
Okay, I'm giving
this
myself
is it.
a minute and a half.
Okay, minute and a half.
So My Dark Vanessa, Kate Elizabeth Russell, another debut, another Jessica Williams, and in that vein, a girl who is finding out things that went on in her past. She's 30-something, looking back, and when she was in high school, she had a relationship with her English teacher, and she thought it was the love of her life. Now, after another student he had is coming out later and saying that he assaulted her, she has to decide maybe that wasn't the greatest love of her life, and she really looks into like some manipulation and abuse and what that looks like when you are saying yes more than you're saying no, and what that means, and was he doing it to other people, and she goes so in depth. You come to revelations of this character. You're gonna know this character. I can't even tell you how much buzz is around it. We have so many librarian quotes. You have to go online. We have a card with all of their quotes. I can't even tell you, this is striking conversations up between other publishers. We'll be at a dinner and they're saying, Harper, you do My Dark Vanessa. I have to talk to you about this, which doesn't happen. People are talking about this, and it just changed. So it was going to come out in January this month, but now it's coming out in March. So, correct, March? Okay.
Yes.
So February 1st is the deadline for this for Library Read. So make sure to read it and vote, but besides even voting, this is going to stay with you, and it's something that I haven't read anything like this ever in my life. But you feel like you are there with her and you are understanding what she went through with her. Like, it's not a look back to say this is right or wrong. You're like, oh, mate, no, that's manipulation. And you have to think so much. It's, it's going to be like a classic. People are going to be talking about this book for years to come, and it's going to be like in your psyche. You're going to know this character. Vanessa Y is the character. So I could go on and on. We have a great podcast episode with Elizabeth and I just noticed they're both named Elizabeth and Jessica. Please, this is of all, you have to read this book. And
probably a lot of you have either read it or hopefully know about it by now, because we have been talking about this book, I feel like, for forever. So at this point, we're just throwing it out there one more time. If there are a handful of people out there who've not heard of it, trust me, everything Lainey has said, it really does deliver on so many levels, and it's handled responsibly. Yeah. It's an important read, and we all encourage you to read it. I'm going to end on what's that?
You can look at the galley for all the librarian quotes I was going to
right. Okay. And with a minute left, we're going to stop with one. I'm going to end with one last book on a very fun note, very juicy psychological book by Liv Constantine. These are the sister writing team who wrote The Last Mrs. Parrish, which was amazing and exploded, and everybody loved it. And this book is right back to that territory. They've done another book in between, which was equally fun, more of a head-scratching mystery, and this is more of a crazy lady who blows into town and sets her sights on a married man, and she doesn't really care that he's married. She's going to get him, and it's amazing. And he is he's married. There are 2 children in the family, but he falls hard for this woman, and his wife, who's sort of been tossed to the side, does a little digging on this charmer that's come into town and found out that she's had a couple of marriages before, and they both ended fatally. So she cares about him despite the fact that he's dumped her, and he's got these kids, and so she's on the track to set this lady straight and get her man back. So much fun. The Last Mrs. Parrish, such a great book. And Elsie Shaw is the pseudonym for one of the authors of this book here. And this is already out. This came out in I think it just went on sale December. great raves on this book, which is a huge departure, Lynn Constantine. But I just wanted to read this one quick quote to you. I think it was on Facebook or on Goodreads. Somebody wrote, "I could not put this book down." Now, of course, this is already out. This is coming out. This you can still vote for on Library Reads. But boy, there's nothing these women can't do. Again, this is Lynn Constantine. "I could not put this book down. Jack Logan was a hero, and I could root for them from the first page. And Taylor Phillips, a sharp, determined woman with a mind of her own, at a past romance, a long-desired pregnancy, a political scandal, a religious zealot, and a man who is determined to corrupt the world to his twisted thinking with more twists than you can count. And phew, you've got L.C. Shaw's The Network." I thought that is such a great wrap-up of this book. So you know what? This is just great fun, and I don't know. As I said, this is the pseudonym for Lynn Constantine, who's written this terrific thriller that involves the government and media, and it's super fun, and it's already out. But this, by the sisters, Liv Constantine, Lynn, this is so juicy and so much fun. And if you loved Last Mrs. Parrish, and you couldn't not love that book because it's amazing, you're going to love this. It's just so much fun. So that is all the time that we have. I think we're done. It's 3 o'clock, 3:02. So we have to go back to work or finish drinking this rancid beer.
It's alive.
It's alive! Thank you so much for taking time to listen to us and to Miriam Parker talk about books that we're excited about for 2020. And we'll be back next month with a ton more. So we hope we see some of you guys in Philadelphia at ALA Midwinter, and go to Library Love Fest to find out about what we have going on there, the podcast and the Dan Halpern thing, which is amazing, and I don't know, just Daniel Halpern, and I don't know, anything else?
No, see you at Philly. In Philly.
See you in Philly.
See you in Philly.
Bye.
Bye.